We have a lot of CFOs listening, Sandeep, who have department leads, fellow C-suite members coming to them all the time with their hands out, asking for them to fund the next thing. You're somebody who has more product lines than anybody I know. Do you get better at saying no to people gracefully over time? Or do you have any tactics or strategies for basically redirecting people to think through it in a way that doesn't cause friction within the org?
Yeah, what I would say to my peers in the CFO community is just know, we have such a fortunate job that we are in essence the Switzerland of the company. For example, I can walk to Alex Balaz, our CTO, and ask him any question around how we're spending on AI, how we're using our models versus external models, how we're using AWS versus Google or other capabilities. I can go to our Chief Commercial Officer, Greg Johnson, and talk to him about our spending on brand marketing versus performance marketing versus TV ads versus whatever. And none of them are questioning my motive because they know as a CFO, I have only one goal: find the optimal outcome for Intuit Inc. I'm not solving for finance. I'm not solving for any one department. I'm solving for Intuit Inc. And only two people in the company have that lens, the CEO and the CFO. So I would say take advantage of the license. So when folks come to me, I always take them for the ask they're coming with and broaden the aperture on where we are as a company. What our opportunities are across the company to invest. And that always leads to us making sure that every dollar we have is going towards the most efficient use and the most optimal ROI for the outcome. And the last thing I would say is I also make sure I remind people and highlight to people that to me, none of this stuff is ever personal. I actually love debate. I like, hey, look, I have a point of view. I'm going to put forth my point of view and let's debate it out. And because by debating things out, and I think this day and age, in certain cultures, folks are just hesitant to have debates. And I always tell people debates and pushing each other in a respectful way leads to the best outcome. So that's kind of how I do it. Ask the right questions, solve for the Intuit Inc. optimum, and just make sure I'm having good debates with my peers in the company.
It sounds like you also bring people back to those three core pillars that are important to everybody. It's kind of like, well, we all agreed we were going to do this. If we go out and do all these other projects, help me here. How are we going to solve for what we agreed to?
That's exactly right. And then we also make sure that as you mentioned, those big bets, those three pillars are set up for success, and also help my peers find opportunities across their portfolio. I recently had a peer come to hey, we're trying to do XYZ and I need to staff up this team and I don't have anyone with this capability that could actually do it. And we step back and open up the aperture on the, folks in his organization that did work kind of like that. And he had 104 people. And I'm like, well, I'm sure across his 104 people, we can find a dozen that we could repurpose. Let's just see what breaks. If something breaks, no one's going to lose their life. And I'll have a story around that as well. But let's just, risk it out and see how those, reshuffling people, restaffing people could help.
Run the Numbers is a mostly LLC production. Yelling an intro by Fat Joe. Artwork by some AI thingamajig. Podcast and video editing is done by Cleancast at cleancast.io. Nothing said on this podcast is intended to be business or investment advice. It's the sole opinion of me, a guy who feeds his dog too much ice cream and has a history of net operating losses, LOL. If you like this podcast, please hit subscribe. It would mean a lot to me. And also check out mostlymetrics.com. That's my newsletter where I explore business models and financial metrics. Thanks for riding with me. Share this with your friends. Peace.